What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, towards the end of this month, we will find out a big Switch 2 holiday release. And when you know it, we're already starting to get some images and stuff leaked out online that has people, of course, discussing if this could be almost redemption, we'll say, for the Pokemon company, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the Horizon multiplayer game, Hunter's Gathering, with Horizon 3 also being mentioned, but it seems like we might have to wait a while for that one. And next generation, it's starting to pop up in the news with multiple reports around the PlayStation 6 and whatever this next Xbox ends up being. All that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with The Virtual Boy. It came out back in the 90s, but now it's going to come out again next week on Tuesday, February 17th, part of Nintendo's NSO collection of different titles. And along with that, they're going to have some peripherals, one being almost like the Labo cardboard with some lenses, and then we'll have what's like a plastic stand basically that has the red lenses for your Switch to go in. And there were previews that happened. You can see over Nintendo Life, there's a large summary collection of all the different previews that took place where people went in person to an event and got to try it out. And for the most part, getting past the idea of, well, the headaches and stuff that people, of course, would hear about with this, actually the focus on the games was fairly positive. It seemed like people were pretty happy with the quality even of this this Virtual Boy replica for your Switch to sit in. And for the most part, it was just, hey, it's the Virtual Boy, it's what you expect, and it's pretty close to... I mean, I get back then it wasn't the greatest experience to use, and maybe this could even be better just based on the technology now. But at least it seems like if you're looking for the Virtual Boy experience, that's what you're gonna get next week when it does release. I'll be picking one of these up, or I guess having one show up on my door, and we'll check it out in a video. Also, we did have some Amazon Prime free games that were announced. Every month, Amazon will do this, so I figured I would point it out if you have Amazon Prime. These are usually PC games that get released across different launchers. So we can see this is over on GameSpot, and they have them lined up here very nicely. February 5th, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands through Epic Game Store was added, along with Dread Templar on the Amazon Games app. Then we have Hex Guardian, Around the World, Travel to Brazil Collector's Edition. Those are on February 12th, February 19th, Ambition, then Captain Blood, then Meganoid, and then February 26th, Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, Total War, and Tavern Talk. There's also several games that are added in through the Luna streaming service that you can check out again if you have Amazon Prime. But these are all titles and codes that you can use for these different platforms if you have Prime. So again, I figured I would at least bring it up. If you have the service, you may as well claim the codes since you pay for the service. Also, we did get an announcement for a port to a sequel, the PS1 game that was legendary in the sense of the advertising in different magazines. That's Fear Effect. Now, Fear Effect 2, you can see this is over on Gamatsu. That's Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix, PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC. That launches February 27th. This is coming to us from Limited Run Games Publishing, and the developer is Implicit Conversions, and they do a lot of the work with Sony on some of their PlayStation Plus Premium Classics collection. And they had an interesting note here. This is the first time this game's been ported or moved to any other platform since it launched on the PlayStation February 21st, 2001. So that's an interesting anecdote, I guess, there to have. But hey, look, if you didn't play Fear Effect back in the day, it might be worth checking out the first one now to see. I don't know how well these games have aged at all, but if you're someone who remembers it well, there you go. You'll have the first one and the second one, that happening again later on. Same day as Resident Evil Requiem, so, you know, tough choice there. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a big leak that's been going around for the next big Pokemon games. Now, there's already been a lot of information that's been put out there around these titles because there's just, the Pokemon company has stuff that leaks out all the time. There was the Terra leak, and there was a follow-up. Like, we got a sequel to that leak. It was strange stuff. But because of this, we're starting to see even some early builds of this game through screenshots. And while these would be like pre-alpha stuff, and people are saying it's beta, it looks like the game without textures at times. But we've seen that before with different games from the Pokemon company. But this is an interesting one because going into Pokemon Day at the end of this month, February 27th, we should get our first look at Pokemon Wind and Wave. That'd be Generation 10, and the plan, I would assume, is to launch it for holiday 2026. and it seems like it's going to be a Switch 2 exclusive, again, just based on all the documentation that's gotten out there so far. So while I can't show you some of the screenshots, I can show you some trailers for different Pokemon games as I kind of look at them and go over the screenshots here. You can check them out in the sources down below, as many websites decide to just post them, but the Pokemon Company and Nintendo don't really mess around necessarily on YouTube, so we'll just avoid that whole thing. But the screenshots, again, while they are missing some obvious details and textures, and they're more or less just showing off what different biomes or environments you could say that will be in the game. I mean, you see obvious snow, underwater, which is interesting. I don't know, I guess there might be underwater areas or levels that you go through. They show deserts and large valleys and big cityscapes here, and even in different caves and stuff. So I mean, I'm really curious about this one because again, some of the documentations mention that it'd be procedurally generated, that these would be fairly large areas and worlds to go through. And while Game Freak has certainly been getting hammered quite a bit after things like Sword and Shield, they should have been, it was a very, very poor performing game on the Switch 1. I mean, just from the technical side, it does work much better on the Switch 2. But now you wonder, okay, what are they going to do when they really develop for the Switch 2? Are they going to end up with another situation like what happened with Scarlet and Violet? Or are they going to show up with something that's legitimately impressive? Because while it's Pokemon and you're not going to outsell Pokemon. So Pal World did very, very well, obviously. The tens of millions of copies sold. It does sell for less than Pokemon, and it's not a long-running series where Pokemon shows up and it sells 20 million plus, sometimes 30 million, like just each generation, right? 20 to 25 million. It's a consistent thing. So here, while they be compared to something like Monster Hunter Stories 3 that got out there, and yes, it looks a lot better on the Switch 2 than anything Game Freak has done on the Switch and Switch 2, it's still obviously not going to stand up to just the brand power that Pokemon has. That's always this crutch that Game Freak has with them and the Pokemon Company, is it kind of feels like no matter what they put out for Pokemon, if it's a new generation and there are new Pokemon to collect, and then it ties into the merchandise and the anime and all the other stuff, it's going to do very, very well, no matter how poor the quality is. But I'd still like to think that even within Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, I don't know, a sense of pride, something, but here at least it looks like, based on the screenshots that are going around, and people are taking the screenshots and comparing them to Scarlet and Violet or even Sword and Shield, and it matches up better than you think, which is sad, I guess, for the previous generation ones. But you figure the game will look better than what's shown in some of these screenshots, but it does show maybe some more ambition here for Gen 10 with Pokemon. Fortunately, we won't have to wait much longer. Again, a couple of weeks here to close out February. We'll have Pokemon Day. They'll announce all kinds of other stuff, but I assume they're going to close out big Gen 10 reveal, and then we'll roll towards the holidays for probably a massive release, of course, maybe in November. It's going to be funny. Here comes GTA 6. Here comes Pokemon. Two large properties, and I mean, honestly, Pokemon is probably the one brand that wouldn't blink if they released even the same week as GTA 6. So we'll see how that turns out again later on this month. Next up, let's talk about Horizon Hunters Gathering, which is a multiplayer game from Guerrilla in the Horizon universe that got revealed last week to, we'll say, mixed reactions online. But here's the thing, while Horizon Hunters Gathering was looked at in a negative light by many people, it was also looked at by many people. I noticed even some of the standard messages that were put out there along with the announcement trailer, I mean, just on places like X and Facebook, so it's millions of views. It's like, wow, okay. So Horizon does have that pull, despite people online being really confused as to who's playing Horizon. Apparently people are, and apparently they're interested in the franchise with how many copies it's sold, like 40 million plus at this point. So with Horizon Hunters Gathering, the idea is, okay, well, Horizon 3, it's coming eventually. Well, that could be a bit. We can see this, though. Now, this is with Okami13 over on X, and they are quoting Jason Schreier, who was actually responding on social media about Horizon 3. And Jason Schreier does have a bit of an ear to the ground with Guerrilla and a lot of the information that comes out of there. And it seems like, according to him, as he mentioned here, that it could be a while. Like, we might be waiting a bit for Horizon 3, even going as far as to say that most of the studio, he believes, is on Horizon Hunters Gathering. Here's the thing, though. This game, I feel like, is coming out this year. Like, isn't that the impression most people have right now? It's coming out this year. It's been in development, according to them, since 2018. So with that in mind, Horizon 3, I think is a cross-gen game, as in PS5 and PS6. And maybe that's not that shocking to think about, but it is funny because Horizon Forbidden West is a cross-gen game for PS4 to PS5, and then the third Horizon game, I assume, will come in and do something very similar to where it will work really well and look good on the PS5, but we'll go to the next level with the PS6 as Guerrilla. The one thing they're very, very good at is on the technical side, they will turn in a game that is very, very impressive looking. All right, so that's kind of what I expect out of Horizon 3, but here's the other part. I kind of wonder if it's even 2020. It might be 29 or 30 at this time, like 2029, 2030. Yeah, so it's a ways off, which is a shame because that's what I would rather have personally than Horizon Hunter's Gathering. I want to see the conclusion because I feel like it's a trilogy, right? I want to see the conclusion to this Horizon series that I have become more invested in now with Forbidden West. But I guess Hunter's Gathering is up first, and then full speed ahead towards the PlayStation 6 version of Horizon. I mean, look, it's probably going to look incredible. I got to play it on next gen. Next up, sticking with the PlayStation 6, there is more information going around with technical details in mind, specifically the amount of RAM that would go in the system and even kind of the configuration for it. And this is becoming more and more relevant as we go along with this whole RAM crisis or crunch that's happening and increased prices behind the scenes and concern around a $1,000 console. Well, let's see. This is over on Video Cards, and they are quoting Kepler L2, who, again, is very, very in the weeds for a lot of the information coming out around not only SoCs with, say, AMD, but also just some of the configuration around some new hardware like the PlayStation 6. And according to them, the PlayStation 6 at this time is expected to have 30 gigabytes of GDDR7, and they're saying it'd be done through a clamshell 3 gigabyte setup. And what that means is you'd have a RAM module on the top of the board and then on the opposite side of it. So like a clamshell there, if you picture it that way. And that would enable them to, I guess, have this situated around the SoC and be able to have 30 gigabytes of GDDR7. Now, people are already doing the math and coming up with 640 gigabytes per second. And as noted by videocards.com, that's about 11% higher than the PlayStation 5 Pro. But I mean, just the RAM allotment alone is almost double what's in the PS5 then, right? So you go up to 640 gigabytes per second, 30 gigabytes GDDR7, and so we've already heard Sony mention that they are going to lean into AI more and more, mostly what they've at least said to us publicly in terms of image reconstruction. And the more advanced a lot of these LLM or large language models get, the more RAM you would need for those processes to run correctly. So it's not shocking to hear 30 gigabytes, but it is maybe a little surprising with the current climate right now. And here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that the RAM crunch is going to be happening for the next 10 years or something. I guess it could, but there's a chance that it could end next year, 2 years from now, depending on where this AI stuff goes. And if you're Sony and you're planning for, I still think 2028, that would make the most sense personally. Like, I'd rather than wait that long. Probably 29, I could get away with that. I'd be like, yeah, okay, fine. But by 2028, we could at least have figured out some kind of solution around this RAM situation. So with how long it takes to plan these things out in collaboration with AMD, if they need 30 gigabytes, they're going to need that, and then they'll figure out as they get closer and closer to that eventual release. But I mean, if it came out and it was $800, I'd go, yeah, that's about right. Like that PS5 Pro territory. And then I do wonder what they would do, if anything at all, when it comes to the more budget-minded or budget-oriented install size they have. So people will still hold out and wait 5 or 6 years into a generation to get a system, believing that it'll go down in price. But we have not seen that at all yet, so who knows? Maybe people buy it thinking, I got an appreciating asset here with a PlayStation 6, because you technically have one if you bought the PS5 at launch. But something definitely to keep an eye on here, because we're starting to get some of the technical details that are being put together, and the PlayStation 6 is looking quite capable. Go figure. A next-gen system probably going to be more powerful than the current one. And in our last bit of news, let's stick with next generation once again, because we have some details around whatever Microsoft is doing here with the Xbox. And it does seem like the focus is more so on the software and user experience than the hardware itself. At least that's what I'm taking away from this. So let's take a look. This is over on Windows Central. Jez Corden had an entire write-up just kind of going over everything that he's heard going into what could end up being a 2027 release. At least at this time, he says that's the best case scenario for release timing. But here's the thing. While, they'd worry about hardware or the SoC that they're working on with AMD, a lot of this seems to be falling on the Windows side being ready. So the reason for that, well, the next gen Xbox is mostly going to be a Windows PC, as in you can fire the system up and it will show up as a console first like experience for the TV, but there's a way to exit that and then just go into Windows, as in, oh wait, wow, I can, I guess, work on an Excel spreadsheet or type up a paper for school, or okay, I can jump back to the TV first interface and play Doom or jump on Fortnite or something. So this is such an interesting situation for Microsoft to go this route. But if they tie the Xbox system more and more to Windows, it is something that becomes more core to the entire business because Windows is core to the business. Now, the thing I've been really curious about here, backwards compatibility, how will that work? Well, according to Jez Corden, it will be retained for previous Xbox generations alongside Windows games. So I wonder if this is something that will also sort of work into like PCs. So if you have built a PC and you've been using it for a while, will Windows eventually upgrade to the Xbox quote unquote version of Windows? And then you can run those previous games that were only through backwards compatibility on the Xbox? Or will there be something that is required on a hardware side through that SoC they're designing with AMD, as in you will need this AMD chip to be installed that Windows will then allow you to play some of these backwards compatible Xbox games. I'm curious there because it also appears that Microsoft will be working with partners to provide, I guess, this AMD SoC. So let's say Asus does want to make a more premium model, or they want to attack the lower priced budget option. They can go either way. So that's the thing with this. It's going to be very difficult to determine price outright. Microsoft probably doesn't even have an idea as to where their version of it's going to fall, which will be the flagship system. And then you'll have a bunch of accompanying systems from different companies. It also appears they still want to work on a handheld, as in a dedicated Microsoft handheld, not like, oh, let's partner with Asus or something. So I do wonder about the messaging to the overall public and the audience when they start to see other companies' logos appear next to Xbox. It's like, which one do I buy? That's going to be the question. I guess if the answer is any of them, they'll all play these Xbox games, they'll all play PC games, just in varying, I guess, degrees of texture quality, detail, resolution, frame rate. Yeah, then people can kind of make the decision based on pricing. But it's just going to be, it's not going to be very focused, I guess is the thing. It's going to feel very scattershot. I need to see how they present this, and I have a feeling we're going to see that at the end of this year, most likely when they do the big Xbox 25th anniversary showcase or celebration or something in November to go along with it being 25 years since the original Xbox and Halo release. So we'll see if they have any surprises for us leading up to that, but right now that's what I'm looking towards. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which system is most likely to be the next one added to Nintendo Switch Online? Okay, so the Wii is leading here at 40%, then the DS at 32%. A Sega system, so I just threw all of them in there, okay? So it could be a Dreamcast, Saturn, a Game Gear, 23%, and then something else. Who knows? Maybe the TurboGrafx drops in there, right? Just randomly. Hey, TurboGrafx is part of NSO now. Go check it out. So this started, there was a lot of conversation around this because Nintendo's support page got messed up, and it sounded like there was an NSO Switch Wii remote that was being pitched as part of the support page, but it turned out, I don't know, Nintendo's back-end website was like going crazy and just pairing different things. Like they had one that was the 3DS Wii remote. Well, I mean, it's probably not gonna be a thing. So with that in mind, of course, people are like, oh, well, Wii does make sense. So people have already come out, and some people who will do like insider reports. Oh yeah, I've heard that like all the Wii stuff, DS stuff, that's all gonna be a thing. I do believe we will eventually see the Wii go to the Switch, and that'll be funny if they really do a new Wii remote for it. And the DS is the thing that I'm most curious to see how they would accomplish that with maybe a second screen, but I don't think what we saw was any indication of that. Still though, seems like most people think that maybe in a random direct at some point, maybe next year or something, hey, the Wii will pop up. And then it gets down to what title should they launch the thing with? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Anne, who says, happy to see Indiana Jones on Switch 2. Where is Jedi Survivor? You know, I think it would be cool to see Jedi Fallen Order and then Jedi Survivor go to the system. Jedi Survivor, though, I would need to see that one and how it would work out, because that is certainly a game that's had its issues from the technical side, especially on PC. It does better on PS5 and Xbox Series, sure, but then on Jedi Fallen Order, that shouldn't be a problem. That should be able to go right over. So I'm curious if we do see those randomly pop up, because while Jedi Fallen Order would be cool, I gotta see Jedi Survivor running on the Switch too, and I would definitely pick it up just to see what they were able to accomplish there on the hybrid system. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanna take a trip back to the 90s or early 2000s and see what it was all about with gaming and the media. I had a sit down for about an hour with Victor Lucas, which was really cool, and I'll leave that right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.